live. All right, everyone, welcome back to another weekly Corona Geek Hangout on air here in the great place of Google Plus. I hope you're joining us again. And if you're not, if this is your first time here, welcome to the show. If you're not familiar with what Corona is, it's basically a mobile development platform to be able to develop apps across a variety of different devices. Your iOS devices, Kindle Fire, Android, Nook, you name it. There's probably a way to develop something for it. And if you're not familiar with Corona Labs, the people who develop Corona, you can check them out and get more information at their website at coronalabs.com. Now, I'm Charles McKeever. I'm joined here in the studio with author and Corona ninja, Dr. Brian Burton. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
I'm also joined by developer, geek, and big gnome hunter, Toff Ward. Say hello, Toff.
How you doing?
Who is sitting in his cave right now, I guess.
It's certainly not your studio. You can tell by the background.
Oh, so what's going on, guys? What are we going to talk about this week? Toff, will you take us through the agenda?
Absolutely. First, as always, we always go over bug fixes and the wonderful little latest build stuff, because as a developer, new stuff happens daily, which is actually something we need to mention how cool daily builds are. Next, we got some newbie questions: gravity versus accelerometer. We have some wonderful certified developer program news. A little bit about sprites. I have an app review, and talk a little bit about some of the iOS App Store issues, kind of stuff.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about what we have to talk about today, because we've got some great topics, and I can't wait to get to the app review, just because it's going to be pretty cool. But first, let's get into the latest build release notes. Now, these are, as you pointed out before, I guess, Brian, these are not necessarily for the public release. These are things that if you're a paid developer, you have access to the latest and greatest cutting-edge release of the Corona SDK, and so you'll probably find these there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you'll want to go over to coronalabs.com and click on the, I guess, buy now or join or whatever they have over there, and become a paid developer. Is that true?
Well, and this time I think for the build releases that came out this week is really highlights the advantage of being a paid subscriber to the Corona SDK. I mean, the fixes and the updates that happened with this last build really highlights what Corona's been trying to do with the whole the 2 weeks on making new additions, and in 2 weeks for fixing the bugs, because we've got so many great bug fixes that really resolved a lot of issues this week that made a huge difference.
Yeah, I could probably see this. I mean, I don't know for certain, but I could probably see that they would want to eventually make this the general release, public release, and push that forward. But yeah, I've seen in the past where, like when the Nook came out, or the Kindle Fire came out, rather, they had, you as a paid developer, you could get advanced things. You get that before everybody else got it. So that was kind of cool. So in build 928, they came out with a lot of bug fixes. As a matter of fact, that there were 12 different things that they went through, and 8 of them were storyboard bugs.
Somebody had a really good day that day.
I know it. They were just hammering it out. They were just, maybe they were hyped up on caffeine or something. I don't know, but yeah, somebody was getting after it. 8 storyboard bug fixes, 4 widget bug fixes, and Walter even went out there, was promoting it on the blog. Hey, we've got all these bug fixes going on. Go check them out. But they also had, after that, they had another build, 929, which came out with 13 more different different cases that were affected. So that was a lot of Nook HD bug fixes and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Get those bugs out of there, man. Get the features in there that people want. It's awesome stuff. So yeah, if you haven't checked that out, you can go over to coronalabs.com. You can click on the build summary and you can check out all the notes for that. We won't go through everything in detail, but it's just know there's a lot of bug fixes been pushed out lately, so you might want to go check it out. Now let's talk about Corona announcements. This was an exciting thing. I mean, just in general, when last time we talked to Walter, he said that he highlighted the fact that Corona was hiring, that they're expanding. So why is that? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
They're growing. The demand's there. One of the if you're watching the announcements on how many developers there are, how many builds are happening with the Corona SDK, the demand is there. The top apps are being produced with Corona. It's an exciting time. They've, just doing a little basic math, at the beginning of the summer, they had a little over 100,000 developers. Now they're over 150,000 developers in less than 6 months. Anytime you got a 50% increase in 6 months' time, that's great, and that's a lot better than going from 2 to 3. This is going from 100,000 to 150,000.
You're right.
We can have fun with statistics all day long, but this is a good 50% increase. So what I think the last time I looked at the job postings, they had 5 or 6 different jobs that they're looking for people.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's it. So that's definitely a good thing. And so they're expanding and they're growing. They're trying to add to their team to keep up with everything that's going on. Like you said, they're putting out more bug fixes. They're putting out more features. They've got the roadmap in front of them. They need the brain power to push all that stuff out, and they're going out there and finding it. So that's good stuff. So if you're interested in that, we'll put a link in the show notes. You can go over to coronalabs.com, check out the jobs, see the stuff that's in there. The developer evangelist U.S. position looks like a pretty. I still think that's a pretty swanky position to be. Out there.
That would be a real swanky position.
I think so.
Actually, the thing I took from all of this is first 3: engineer, engineer, and then you basically have the guy who runs and gets coffee for the engineers, and then you have the program manager, who's the person who will take care of your dry cleaning and all of that while you go code. I know this because I've done that before, so technically. And then you got the director who does absolutely nothing but ask the program manager for updates. So between doing all the coffee and all that, it really works for the 3 engineers, because you got to have somebody to support the engineers so they can write new features. I understand how this all works.
Yeah, well, these guys, this isn't a Department of Defense contractor. I think this is these are guys they're all wearing multiple hats. So I'm sure.
I know they're actually making stuff happen, and we can see that by the daily builds. So I just thought it was neat. Engineer. I mean, really and truly, you can tell that what they're after. They're not hiring HR people. They're not hiring. I mean, they're basically saying, we want people to go build these features, bug fixes, move this thing forward. So that's a huge bonus for me.
Yeah, exactly. We should definitely see that. As developers on this, then we should definitely see the benefits of that once they get all those people in place. And you also, some exciting news, I think, is there's something about a certified developer program.
Yeah, this was announced at the beginning of the summer when they launched the brand new website and had the change from in name to Corona Labs. Mm-hmm. One of the things that has puzzled a lot of people, there's a page for a certified developer program, which that's pretty exciting. I can confirm that, yes, there is a certified developer program. I've been working with Corona Labs to develop what the exam should look like, study materials, things like that, and that is getting closer and closer to actually being ready to launch. So there have been a few delays along the time just from multitude of reasons, but that is getting very close to being ready to go.
Can we get the teacher edition with the answers in the back?
No, I'm the only one with the teacher edition. Oh. Sorry. But I am available for hire for training.
There you go.
Very nice. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm a training hound. I like I like lots of training, lots of reinforcement of concepts and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be great. Okay, well, let's move on to some community questions then. Let's talk about accelerometers and gravity. So Hector, who goes by the handle or the name or the what do you do? What is it on Twitter? What is your thing? Is it your handle? Is it your
Twitter handle. Yeah.
It's a Twitter handle? Okay. His Twitter handle is apps global, and he asks, he says, I still get confused about proper use of the accelerometer and gravity. Sometimes I confuse them with moving objects. So, does anybody have any thoughts about that? I mean, I kind of generally get the idea of gravity and accelerometers, but I'm probably not using it to its full extent.
This is a very complex question. There's several different directions that Hector might be going with this, and so I hesitate to say this is what he means. I'm going to assume what he's talking about, which, of course, we all know what happens when you assume. Okay, a couple people got that. Yeah, I never could be a comedian. I don't wait long enough for people to get the what I think he's driving at is the use of an accelerometer inside of a game and then applying gravity to objects based upon changes in the device orientation or changes in how you're moving the device. So, and that's been used for quite a few games out there. There's some racing games and all kinds of neat things that you can do. But basically, the accelerometer is looking at changes in movement or direction based upon gravity inside the device.
Okay, but isn't gravity sort of a? I mean, isn't gravity sort of a constant world thing? Wouldn't it be?
Oh, it has been in my house. So.
Those things at rest tend to stay at rest, and all those kind of yeah. See, so
usually, yeah. Usually gravity is considered a constant, and what the device is doing is, if it's not in motion, it's registering that constant value, and it's looking at changes in that constant to determine movement. So, if the device is actually falling, then it's in free fall, and that would be zero gravity. If the device is resting on your desktop, then it's a 1. It's 1 gravity unit that is being pulled at it. So it's that movement, that change in that value that the accelerometer is actually registering.
Okay, so I think, and we're gonna link to this example in the show notes, but there was an article that kind of talked about, like you just mentioned a moment ago, if you don't want to drop the device, but let's just say for conversational purposes, if you drop the device, it's not going to. Its gravity is 0, right? Is that what we're saying? It's gonna.
Right. Because it's in free fall, at least until it stops falling.
Okay, but if you
depends on how tall you are.
But if you were to put the object, the device, on a table and then launch that table, say, like you would like a rocket, then it would have a certain amount of registered gravity on it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, there's going to be a registered change in gravity on the device. How gravity is affecting that device, because it's moving up. Well, that's movement is in actually changing that gravity registration. Where if it's moving down, then it goes less than 0. If it's moving up, it increases above 1. And plus, the device has got a gyroscope registration for orientation inside the device, so that it can actually see, chain tilts in the device. So, and that's all being handled by your accelerometer. You can register X, Y, and Z using the accelerometer in the device.
Okay, so
that's some pretty cool stuff.
So then we have two things. Then we've got in the API documentation, it talks about accelerometer. And then the other one talks about was actually physics, which is the physics includes the gravity, right? So you can get you can get gravity, you can set gravity, you can do those types of things. So those things are really separate from each other.
Yes, completely separate, because the gravity, if we're referring to the same thing, the gravity when we're talking about that is the box 2D gravity.
Okay, and that's
And
all.
so
And that's all.
I can set.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all in the physics part of the API.
Yes. And so when I turn it on the box 2D physics, then I'm registering gravity. If we're on the same page on this topic, this is a very deep, complex topic, and while you don't need a degree in astrophysics or something like that to be able to code for this, it is a little bit more advanced than what moving a sprite from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right. And I think you and I are. I mean, we're kind of talking the same things, but from what I've read, Corona includes. They handle a lot of the physics engine stuff. It's already built in because of the box 2D. They give you sort of these API hooks that you can go in and set gravity and get gravity and manipulate things. So if you want to do a bouncing ball, or if you want to do set gravity and have something fall from the sky, you can do all those things relatively easily. I think maybe Hector. What he's talking about is when he's going to move something, he gets confused as to whether he's supposed to be using the accelerometer or whether he's trying to affect it with gravity. And I know with gravity you also have you have an X and Y, so you can set gravity sort of straight down, and you can set gravity maybe to the right, so you can move something to the right or left by applying I'll call it sideways gravity. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. If we register a tilt in the device using the accelerometer, I can simulate that tilt with the gravity using the physics engine.
Okay, so maybe in that.
So I can have an object fall to the side because the device has been tilted.
So maybe in that case, then we're using the accelerometer to capture a change in the orientation of the device, and then at that point we might increase the I'll stick with the sideways gravity. The what is that? Is that the X? Or
probably
the Y?
The X.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might increase the X from 0 to 0.3 or something, and have something skidding down the side of the application.
Okay, so
you can do all kinds of really cool things with this.
So there's probably not I mean, it's being kind of developed all. I don't know. All this kind of stuff is unfolding, and there's probably a best practice, but nobody's really. I haven't seen a paper published on that. It's just the best practice for how to do this, right? I mean, you can probably come up with your own.
There've been occasionally, not attaching the accelerometer to necessarily the physics gravity inside the application. I don't think there's been anything published on that. There's been a few tutorials created on using gravity and on using the accelerometer, but I don't think they're attached.
Huh. Okay.
That'd be a really good one to do. I'll add that to my list.
Yeah. So I was thinking too. So if you can come up with your own solution. That's also the beauty of Corona, right? You could come up with your own solution. It doesn't necessarily have to be the one that everybody else uses, but if it's your way of doing it, and because Corona supports, it uses Lua as its programming language. I mean, you could really write your own. You could write your own custom libraries in Lua to do whatever you want it to do, right? I mean, so you could develop your own custom solution. Okay, so it sounds like the accelerometer really is a mechanism for controlling device orientation, whereas the physics part is more for the actual gravity. And then if you wanted to use those two together, you could, but we don't have any specific examples of that right now. But okay, so what are you showing us there, Toff? This is the article that I saw on lunar.org, which I thought is a little more advanced than some of the things that are shown in the Corona API documentation. But sometimes you got to jump outside of the topic just to find out what are the basic
This is people
ideas.
that play with rocketry. This is not a programming article. So.
Right. So these are more general concept type stuff.
Yes.
How gravity is affected in relation to rockets, or how accelerometers are affected in relation to rockets. So, but I thought this was a good article because there's a lot of layman language in it. At least I was able to read it, and I didn't get confused at any point. So I thought that was a nice article. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes to kind of talk about that. Again, it's not a Corona article per se, not a programming article, but it is kind of a general topic article and might help shed some light on that. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on to some of the blog highlights, some of the things that came off the Corona blog. And the one thing that I thought was interesting was the animated sprites tutorial that was put out by them last Thursday, I think it was. Are there tutorials on Thursday, right? Is that correct? I think they come out. Or is that... What day did they come out? The 2nd.
This one came out on Tuesday.
Okay, it's Tuesday tutorial. Sorry. So it's Tuesday. There's Tuesday tutorials. There's like a Wednesday thing, and then there's another Thursday. I don't know. They have 3 different things that they come out with during the week, and I mean, if you haven't checked those out,
there's
you definitely
something always happening at Corona Labs. So
yeah.
Visit it regularly.
Well, in this tutorial, they talk about basically how to take and use sprite sheets, and we're not going to go through the whole article because it's really in depth. There's a lot of code examples. There's a lot of concepts that get discussed and things like that. But the takeaways that I got from it was basically that there are 2 approaches when working with sprite sheets, and Brian, jump in here and tell me if I'm missing something. But essentially, basically there's an old method of working with them with the sprite library, and then there's a new, the current sprite API that works what they say here cohesively with image sheets and the display library. So.
Yeah, the old sprite library that unfortunately I talk about in my book, it has now been depreciated. So it's still out there. It can still be used. It still works great. But now everything's been shifted to a display new sprite, which puts it as part of this display API instead of its own API. The new display sprite library is, in my opinion, much more powerful, much more flexible than what the old sprite library was. And I think with the old sprite library, we were very dependent upon a lot of third-party add-ins and tools to be able to accomplish things, and now we don't necessarily need as many of those.
Okay, so you're saying, if I heard that correctly, you're saying this is a definite improvement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the things that you can do with this now compared to there were a lot of ways you could get the old sprite library to do what you wanted to do, but with the new sprite library, it's so easy to use static or animated images for you're swapping them out and moving them smoothly inside of your display object that it's really nice. And one of the things that I thought about when I was first looking at the new library is that you could even use the sprite library to create a fancy font. You can have all kinds of let's say we've all played games that had a very strange font that's not typically found. You could actually create a specialized font library for a fancy font for your game. Fancy font for your game. Yeah, say that 3 times.
and that's with the new current version.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Well, yeah, you mentioned something there about using static or animated images. I mean, you could use this for just static images, right? Because what we're talking about here is we're talking about a sprite sheet, which is an image with a bunch of different images on it, and then you essentially, based on what you need at the time, you give it the coordinates of that section of the sprite sheet. You can say, show me just this little, show me this little square or rectangle, and then you flip through those based on what you need. So the tutorial goes through how to do it in an animated fashion, but you could really use that just for I mean, packing your resources into your
For
app.
anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool. I like that kind of stuff. I think that's awesome. And yeah, and their example they gave was basically a cat, and the cat was either running slow or running fast. So with the same sprite sheet, you could have the slow version and the fast version, and you could flip back and forth between the two based on what your game was doing. So that's very cool. What else was there? Oh yeah, and you got the fancy fonts in there. So that's a good tutorial. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. You should definitely go check it out. Like I said, it's a bit of a read, so you'll want to work through the tutorial that's there. They give you the resources so you can kind of follow along with what they're talking about. So let's move into our app review for today. Now, Toff, do you have is that a puppet? Did you bring a puppet into the studio for today's show?
This is our guest speaker today. What's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua, absolutely. You smile big for the camera.
Hey, Joshua, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
I went on a road trip from, where did we start? Here. We went to
Yeah.
Car road from Dallas to Florida. 2 full days. So what Daddy did was went out and grabbed like about 10 to 12 different apps, just grab, threw them there, and threw them on the iPod, but they weren't allowed to play them until the car was actually backing out of the driveway. Now, one of the apps that got the most giggles out of the back seat was Fainting Goats. Here, go. I'll insert this real quick.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're gonna talk about fainting goats. What a topic! I love it.
I know, it's weird.
Okay, here, I will share my screen here so you can see what exactly I'm talking
So
about.
this is a Corona built app. Am I correct in that? Or not?
Yeah, let me bring this over here.
Not built by Corona, but built with Corona, rather.
Yeah, this is Fainting Goats is by 2 guys called Steve. Gotta like that. And what it is 99 cents. This was just the deal of the century because you're getting really good graphics. You're getting lots of different stages and levels and things to go through. And the fact that you have goats who faint. So, I mean, how can you go wrong? So here's some screenshots. Like I said, it is built in Corona. And actually, if you go to the 2 guys called Steve website, they actually talk about what is the best software for making a mobile game. And they talk about all the different software, Gmail, Dropbox, iNet, this, great. Oh, look, Corona. And they even got a game of the week from Corona. So they really, I think they had fun. I saw one thing where it took them like 3 months to build the game. And that was, I think 2 months was for the coding. And then they had all the graphics and all the other stuff they had to do. So, I mean, really, when you think about doing a game, this is a pretty tight turnaround. I mean, I was pretty amazed at how well they were able to essentially get all of these good graphics and get them up and running. All right, sir. Would you like to walk us through Fainting Goats here real quick? Turn it around. You want to tell us about it?
Are you going to give us some level secrets on this?
Some cheat codes and some.
Well, the goal is actually, you see that guy?
Yes.
Well, you're supposed to hold this and watch this. It's funny.
Oh
You
man,
actually literally faint the goats.
that's hilarious. So all you have to do is make a loud noise, and the goats fall over, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So now, is it possible to get all the goats at one time?
Oh no, you have to just like move around cause see, if I just get them in one, see, I didn't get them all.
Oh, you ran out of voice there.
At the top right-hand corner, you see all the
It's like your
the
power
energy up
meter
at
or
the top
something.
left.
Yeah.
If you hold down that right circle button, the longer you hold it up down, the more energy you use, or more yelling you use. So if you just did little bitty taps, then the circles are small and you use just a little bit of energy. But the longer you hold it down, the more you use up your energy. And obviously, the longer you play, the more goats there are, with approximately the same amount of energy.
Because if you just hold this down the longest, see, it won't work.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So you have to kind of plan out your moves here then.
Yeah.
You want to show us an advanced technique? How would you win this level?
Well, mostly how I win this level is to just go to like certain mountains, just get it. But you see that go right there in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how to get to that one. Or I could just do like that, and I waste all my energy.
I know. It takes some strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So this seems like definitely a good car game for sure. Keep you.
Well, you have music in the background.
Yeah.
And look how good the graphics are.
And do you see that arrow, right? That button that shows upwards?
Yes.
Well, that's to jump, cause see?
And what does the jumping get for you?
Well, like, if you're on this, see, if you just run, you'll just go down. So here's the trick. You just hold it down and press it. So then you can get back on.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I like this. I like that it seems like it's easy enough that you can get started without having a whole lot of learning curve.
So how old are you, Joshua?
7.
7. So there were actually you were 6 when I got it, wasn't you?
Yeah.
I got this for the Christmas present. So consequently, we had lots of giggling in the back seat. This occupies all sorts of good time. I was not in the back seat explaining how to use this program. So a lot of, like for instance, whenever you were doing some of the app reviews, Charles, you were talking about, okay, is the navigation easy? Is it, easy to get around? Well, I didn't explain this to my cool little 6-year-old in the back seat. He figured it all out himself.
So now
So
what are the TNT things, the little plungers there? What do those do?
Can you do anything?
Can you blow anything up?
No, it's just a pause button.
Oh, just a pause button.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you could explode. Yeah, you could just go like somewhere. Like you could just press that button.
Uh-huh.
Like just go like right there, press the button. Well, press the button and then just get off, and then it'll explode.
Oh, we should tell Steve that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we'll have to send him. We'll have to send him your suggestions. That's definitely good. Well, I like this. This is great. And
Look, it's funny. I'm gonna waste all my energy.
so, how many levels does this thing have?
Let's see.
Let's see. How many? Stage 4.
So there's 9 stages. Looks like about 5 levels per stage, so 45 levels.
Wow.
Obviously, this is on Daddy's iPhone, so, I'm still on level 2, so I may have to let my kids borrow this and, bump me up some levels.
Unlock some levels for you, huh?
Make me look good. That's
Right.
really what I...
There's 45 levels.
Sweet.
Maybe, wait.
Yeah, I think they're all fine.
There's 45, 50.
I'm on 8.
Well, actually, 55.
55? No, I think it's 40.
Now each stage seems to have its own little custom background. So it's the theme stays the same each time, but the background changes out and things like that, right? Just keeps it kind of fresh.
Yeah.
See, look, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Oh, 40,
Very nice.
45.
Absolutely.
Well, very
thank you.
cool.
Demonstration. I thoroughly appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Always thank you for giving us that app review. That's
Yes.
very helpful. Well, there you go, and that's a true testimony right there. Because if you can't get the kids to play it, then it doesn't matter how well it's put together or how much you put into it. The consumer is the one that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, trust me. If you download that app for Charles, or if
Max.
you download that app for Max and Maggie, it will blow their minds.
Blow your minds.
Like,
2 thumbs
they'll
up.
like crack up. They'll like crack up with this. Like crack up. It's just so funny.
That was good.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that. Awesome. Well, let's move on to device and industry news. Let's talk about some of the changes that are happening in the iOS App Store. Bye. Thanks, Joshua. So, if you don't know, and everybody probably does, but we'll say it anyway. Basically, Apple put out a new clause to their terms of service, or their agreement. Basically says that I'll read it verbatim. It says apps that display apps other than your own for purchase or promotion in a manner similar to or confusing with the App Store will be rejected. So, what do you guys think about that?
We need to come up with a way that doesn't display it like the App Store.
And that's my thought exactly. Is it to say that you can't promote anything, or is it to say that you can't make it look, you can't duplicate what the App Store is doing? You can't try to confuse or fake people into making purchases. Which do you think?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm kind of on the fence, because at some point, really, if you're a beginning developer, you really want to get your name out in as many places as possible. And I've actually played a couple of games that somebody said, "Here, try this." Well, it was a free game, and they had in-app like points or credits. Well, one of the ways you could earn credits was going and signing up for more games. And every time you signed up for more game, they would give you a couple of credits. Oh, thank you for trying so-and-so. And boom, you got more credits in the original game. And I thought, now that's clever. I don't want to give money to this original game. I can earn free points, and all I got to do is go try these other apps. And I actually came across a couple apps I really liked by that same technique. So preying upon the fact that I'm just really cheap, they basically got me to try more apps. And I thought, that's just genius, because, you know, if you're just a cheap bastard like me, then great. You know, I'm now trying extra stuff, as opposed to, do I really want to spend $2.99 on an app and not know if it's really what I want? So I'm not sure if this conflicts with that or not. So my verdict is kind of out as to, are you really limiting the creativity and flexibility of an app developer, or are there's some serious spam issues that you're trying to fix, and you just want to do a kind of a blanket, we can stop everybody, and we'll just pick and choose who we want to stop?
My opinion is it's probably that last. It's they're trying to stop. Apple is trying to stop people that they're not getting a cut. You know, they are a for-profit business, and if you're creating a methodology that is confusing, first of all, confusing with iTunes Store. Don't make your stuff look like the iTunes Store. That's going to be critical right there. Second of all, Apple is trying to make money from this, just like the developers. And if you're making something that's going to keep them from making their profit, then it's probably going to get rejected.
Yeah.
Maybe not to begin with, but eventually.
Well, and we'll link to the Pocket. There was a Pocket Gear, a PocketGamer.biz article that kind of talks about all these different aspects of this topic, and I tend to agree with the author of that article, who says basically that, you know, I mean, either way, Apple's going to make the sale, right? Because they control where you can buy the app. So they control distribution, they control point of sale, they control all that stuff. So why not? Why does it matter to them? And I think it just comes down to user experience. You know, it comes down to whether or not you're confusing someone, and whether or not I'm representing myself as you. I know in trademark, and I'm not a trademark lawyer, I'm not an attorney, I'm not even close. But I know in past experiences with trademark stuff, if your business or your product or your service or whatever is even remotely similar to somebody else's trademarked whatever, then there could be confusion in the marketplace, and therefore you're in violation of that person's trademark. You could, a judge or somebody could rule that you're in violation, and so it's important for the trademark holder to then defend that trademark, because if they don't defend their trademark, then they could be argued that, well, you didn't defend it, and then what good is it having it, right? And so therefore your trademark could be, I don't know, revoked, I guess is maybe the term, or something. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking it's just one of these things where Apple's like, well, look, we don't want you trying to represent yourself as us, and even in the very similar fashion. So don't do it. But I don't think that means that nobody can promote a game. I don't think that.
Right.
I mean, it all comes down to Apple's ultimate interpretation of that. If they come down and say, "I'm sorry, your app is rejected," then guess what? Your app is rejected, regardless of whether or not you think it meets the spirit of the clause. But I don't know. It seems pretty clear to me. I mean, people get kind of all out of whack when these things come out, but it doesn't seem too threatening to anyone in particular, unless you're that person that they're talking about.
Right.
So,
unless you've made something in your app that looks like the iTunes store, and then you're going to get rejected. So I haven't talked to anybody that's had an app rejected because of this. Obviously you need to be considering it when you're making your apps and how you're going to make your profit on your app.
Yeah, Toff, click on that right down at the bottom where it says update. We've managed to speak to some developers who have encountered Apple enforcing. Okay. Yeah. Now this is another. We'll link to this in the show notes, but this is a follow up to that same article where someone talked about someone who got their app. They refused to publish it. So I won't go into too much detail there because I don't have any first-hand information apart from what I read in the article. But it's a good read, so go check that out. But for the most part, the overall general part of the story was that the person just pulled out a portion of their app and resubmitted it, and they were able to get it published. So it wasn't like they were banned forever. It was just Apple said we don't like this part, and they modified it and resubmitted it, and they were able to get it published. So I would be interested to see what happens as this kind of unfolds, to see who gets affected by this. Is it going to be individual indie developers, or is it going to be maybe some of the larger outfits that are trying to really make more than just the 99-cent profit off of the game? They're trying to become a replacement for, or a substitute for promotional efforts inside of iTunes. I don't know.
Well, this guy here is talking more along the lines of looking like the App Store, kind of, control over what you see, so that if you're trying to mimic the look and the feel and the ability so that people are surfing your site instead of the iTunes library directly, we don't like that kind of stuff.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's kind of, well, I won't say it because it's not true. People are busy. Their lives are busy. They don't focus on what the App Store looks like at all times. We know what the App Store is. We know what it looks like. We know how it works. We deal with this stuff all the time. Average Joe citizen doesn't, and so it's extremely easy for them to become confused between what something is or what something isn't, because they don't know if it is or it isn't, or what it's supposed to look like. They just know if it's kind of similar to something, well, that must be it, right? And so now you get down to the point where I could go to somebody and say, well, Apple does this and Apple does that, and they won't let me do this or they won't let me do that, and get all kind of mad and complain about them, and then someone could point out to me that that's not Apple, that's this guy, this developer, that's this app, this whatever. Apple doesn't do any of that. So your whole impression of what they do or don't do could be tainted based on someone else's actions And so as a company, I think that's really what Apple is after. They're trying to protect the user experience, and they're trying to make sure that they're, that when somebody says, Apple did this to me or didn't do this to me, you're actually accurate. You're talking about what they did or didn't do, and not what somebody did or didn't do that looked like them. So I don't know. I don't.
I like this though, right here where it says, you can't get sales unless you appear on a ranked list, and they can't appear on a ranked list unless Apple features you. Whereas if you start going for some of the things like Tapjoy or others, they're basically meant to market your app for you and help get you as many downloads as possible so that you can start ranking. Because I think Google's looking at, votes, how many people click, how many people link to you, how many, where are you featured, that kind of stuff. So I'm guessing that Apple does a similar type algorithm that if nobody knows about you, well, you're not going to rank. And if you're not going to rank, then we're not going to feature you. So it's this weird cycle of how do you get credit if nobody gives you credit unless you have credit already? So now how do you, the same thing happens in reality.
Yeah, and we definitely know that there's an issue right now with app discovery. That's a big topic out there, and hopefully next week when we talk with David Rangel, we're going to talk about how to market your apps. We're going to talk more about those types of topics. So it's app discovery is definitely a problem. It's something that needs to be better than it is today, and but I think that conversation. I think that conversation can be separate from my stuff looking like your stuff. Consumers being confused by the difference of me piggybacking on what you do and trying to make people think that I'm making recommendations when it's not really me at all. It's somebody else. So I think Apple's just putting that in to protect themselves. To be able to at least have the latitude to be able to say, no, we don't want to do this, or we don't want to publish this, or we don't want to publish that. I
think they found a loophole. Is really what I think. They found a loophole that somebody can actually rank in their. It's kind of like if Google says, "Oh, we're going to do the Panda update to prevent people from spamming their way to the top," and I think Apple found a loophole and says, "Ooh, we need to plug this somehow so that they can't rank artificially," because they really want the same things like Google, that an app is there and good because it really is good, not because they bought their way to the top by spam.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see how that plays out as people begin to submit their apps. I'm really curious to see the outcome. Yeah. Because I would hate to think that we would be able to promote. If you come up with an app and you want to promote somebody else's app, you should be able to do that. I don't know. Seems like it's fair. But yeah, I see your point. Maybe it's best to do that kind of stuff off of outside of the app. I don't know. Anyway, so we'll link to that. Both of those resources. There was an article on Kernel Labs, and there was also an article on PocketGamer.biz, and we'll do that. Put those in the show notes. So let's talk before we close up shop here. Let's talk about mobile-friendly sites. I think this is as mobile developers, mobile-friendly sites seems like a nice segue, nice related vertical topic.
Sure.
So Google came out with this report. They did this study, and basically what they did was they got 2 independent research firms to study more than 1,000 U.S. adults who participated in focus group discussions and kept journals of their mobile activities. The interviews and surveys took place in Q3 of this year. Now, this is from an article that we'll link to in the show notes, and essentially they found that people like mobile-friendly sites. Yeah, here we go. Where are you? There you go. Let me bring that up. People like mobile-friendly sites, especially if they're on a mobile device. They like things like big friendly buttons that they can click on. And they also found that 67%. There was 67% more sales. People were more likely to buy if the site was mobile friendly. So I think this is important because right now what we've got is a lot of sites that are not mobile friendly. I think they said 97% of the sites that they came across were not mobile friendly. and that probably even includes sites that are promoting mobile apps. I would go out on a limb to say that's in the same arena, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, no, I'm really bad about this because out of sight, out of mind. When someone says, "Oh, hey, I was just thinking about buying X." Oh, okay, well, hang on. My phone's there with me. Actually, you're worse than me at this, but my phone is there with me. So consequently, whenever I think of something, I immediately translate that. Well, let's look that up. Let's see what that is. And if you hit a site and the site goes, "I'm sorry, we don't," I mean, I've even had a site that literally says we don't support mobile devices. Okay, bye. I mean, just really quick, easy decision there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, and we're getting to the point where more and more people are using mobile apps. I mean, I posted an article on Twitter earlier today. Was talking about the percentage. There was like 16% of web traffic was mobile devices. And we see it a lot on the sites that we use. There's an uptick in mobile device traffic, and so we're at a point where we need to recognize it and we need to do something about it. Now some of the things that they came out with, and I'm actually kind of quickly trying to look for here. Some of the things that they talked about was that of the people who went and used these mobile sites, they what they wanted to do was things like 53% of them wanted to be able to download an app. Well, as an app developer with an app promotional site, that seems like a pretty good number to me. 53% of them probably want to download an app, and that's only because maybe those people are like me. They want instant gratification. They want it right then. They want to click it. They don't want to wait to get back to their computer. I know last time we talked about the fact that, Brian, you like to buy stuff through iTunes and put it on your device, and I like to buy right through my phone. So.
This is a tablet also. I mean, I keep thinking of mobile devices as a phone, but really and truly, I'm on my couch with my iPad.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm much more likely to go to a website with my tablet than I am with my phone.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I tend to, if my tablet had a radio, had the cell radio in it, I would probably use it a whole lot more. I mean, I have Wi-Fi at the house and things like that, but I tend to, I don't know, I tend to rely more on the phone just because I know it's always connected. I'll go to the tablet when I'm as a secondary. So interesting. So they said that here that they had 74% people liked an option to go to the full non-mobile site as well. So they not to sort of abandon the full site, but to make a mobile-friendly version available. So I've seen lots of sites where you go to the mobile version, and then if you want, you can click and go to the non-mobile version. And I think this is because a lot of the times you might not be able to find exactly what you want in the mobile version, and that kind of comes back to the asking yourself, well, if I create a mobile version of this, what's the goal of that mobile version? What should it do? What's the one or two actions that I want the people to take on this mobile version, as opposed to trying to cram everything into the mobile version that I would have had on the full version. So there's a usability issue there, and a lot of people said that they would want to either go to the social media pages for that website. So if you went to somebody's website and you were just like, okay, I just want to connect with them on Twitter. I just want to get, I want to look them up on Facebook. 48% of the people said they would want to do that on the mobile version of the site. So I thought that was a pretty significant number. I know I personally do the same thing. I'm like, I'm on the mobile, I'm on my phone. I want to connect with somebody via Twitter. I go to their website and I look for the social media icons. So don't forget to include those. And then 69% of people said that they wanted a big button friendly. They wanted something that they could tap on, because there's a lot of margin for error people fat finger things and things like that. They want it to be clean. They want it to be easy to use, and they want the buttons to be there to support that. So anyway, we'll link to that in the show notes. I thought that was a pretty good study by Google, given the fact that they hired 2 independent research firms, and kind of, it wasn't just, hey, I asked around to my friends and family, and this is what I got. I mean, they went all out to kind of put together the information for us. So, and the second,
it goes back to the whole concept of it's not a desktop anymore. I mean, historical perspective, you go, okay, well, that's a 13-inch monitor. That's your base, and then you go, okay, well, no, it's 15. Okay, it's 17. Well, oh crap, they all have 20-inch monitors now. So, do we stick with the Grid 960, which is what we used to do, or before that, the Grid, 480, and you still keep expanding, and now all of a sudden you go, oh, mobile device. You're back to little bitty again. So it's like you have to play nicely wherever somebody is going to be viewing you.
Mm-hmm. But that also comes, but it also, I mean, I don't want to leave too quickly though, because it does come back to what are they supposed to be doing? I mean, a lot of times companies put together sites and they cram as much information out there as they can as possible, because they don't know, they haven't done any kind of thinking or research or analytics to figure out where people are going, what they're doing, what when they hit this page, what are they supposed to, what's the 1 or 2 things that I want them to do, where are they going to go from here, all those types of things. So again, my iPhone will pull up a web page just fine. It'll pull up a website just fine, and I can see all the links, I can see all the graphics, I can see everything. But there's so much there that it's just not mobile friendly. It's not something that I can just tap. It's not, I have to pinch and zoom and I have to move around and I have to do all this stuff. The mobile friendly version of the site, if you're going to go to the links to create a mobile friendly version of the site that actually has design considered, and actually has the size of the buttons considered and all this other stuff, well, it just makes sense that you would be figuring out what is this page supposed to do. It doesn't need to do the 15 things that the page would have done in the full site. It needs to do the 1 thing or the 2 things that person would have come there to do. They're going to download my app. They're going to connect with me on a social media. They're going to click the contact thing and ask me a question. I mean, whatever that is, that's all it should do. It shouldn't do more than that.
Ooh, I just thought about a scenario. Imagine creating an email newsletter that goes out. People read it on their phone, and they click through to one of the buttons to your site to go, oh, read more information. Oh, well, yeah, okay, I'll click on that. And it takes you to this just totally crammed, zoomed, doesn't fit, doesn't work, nothing's never mind. So now you got these really skewed results that says, oh, we had hundreds of people click through, my email newsletter and get to the site, and they didn't do anything. Gee, why, what happened? Okay, well, what are they seeing whenever they actually get there? Did you just kind of drop them off the cliff after they clicked? I mean, you go through that much effort to get them to click to get to your website, and then you just kind of push them off the cliff.
Yeah,
not sure that's a real smart idea.
Yeah. We'll have to write up some stuff on that. I mean, it's just
that's a great idea.
Not that we have extensive experience in marketing mobile apps, but if from a common sense standpoint, we should write some of that stuff up, because it's just getting in front of someone is one thing, getting their attention is one thing, and then what do you do with it once you're there? So anyway, it's the rabbit hole goes deep on that, but I think it was interesting to see that we're at a point where it's kind of a no-brainer. Everybody says, well, yeah, mobile friendly apps. People want mobile friendly apps, and it seems like a duh. But how many people are doing it? How really doing it? And I don't just mean like a scaled down version of your site. I mean a real thought out mobile friendly site.
Well, if you haven't redone your site in a couple of years, you're definitely not mobile friendly.
Right. No, yeah, this is true. Yeah, and stripping out the style sheet and just making it, a list of links, that's not mobile friendly. That's not what we're talking about.
It's links browser compatible.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, which is because probably up until recently, mobile friendly was what mobile friendly was. A mobile friendly version of your site was it just stripped the style sheet out or did some different style sheet and displayed a list of links, and that was the mobile friendly. That's like, well, that's
not premium.
Yeah, it's not premium. We could do better than that. Okay, well, we're not going to do anything for our API Spotlight today because we talked quite a bit about other things, the storyboard widgets and gravity and accelerometers and all that stuff like that. So look for the show notes on those topics and go out and do a little bit of reading on your own, and we'll come back next week with something else to talk about. You guys got anything else you want to discuss?
Nope.
Let's just mention that on Monday we're going to have David Rangel from Corona Labs visiting with us.
Absolutely, yep. COO of Corona Labs is going to be here. He's going to be talking about marketing mobile apps, all the different opportunities and things that we should be considering as mobile developers for marketing our mobile applications. So that'll be a great conversation, a great session. And so we're going to be back here next Monday, 2 p.m. Central, to talk about that. So definitely mark that on your calendar. Go ahead and circle us on Google Plus so that you'll get the reminders about that as we get closer to that event. And you can also follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/coronageek. You can find us on YouTube at coronageek.com, at youtube.com/coronageek. And thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. And if you have any questions, anything that you want us to talk about, or something that you want us to answer a question about, you can send you an email to questions@coronageek.com. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.